What is up, guys? Welcome to my review for The Flash, Season 4, Episode 16, titled Run, Iris, Run. This is an episode that not a lot of people were looking forward to, and I wasn't really looking forward to it either because I thought it was going to be a throwaway episode, and it kind of was. In terms of the Iris storyline, it was definitely completely filler. It didn't need to happen at all, but the Harry thing and the Ralph thing, those kind of affected the storyline, as well, I guess, as a melting point. But just Iris herself, her storyline, did not affect the storyline of the season. And when I said in my previous review of for Enter Flash Time that when a storyline that doesn't affect the season isn't great or amazing, and it's just okay or good, then what was the point? Like last week, Enter Flash Time, the whole storyline of him being in Flash Time didn't really affect the season, but it was so good that it didn't really matter. This episode, however, it didn't. This storyline of Iris becoming a speedster didn't affect the season, and it wasn't great. So then, what was the point? Except for Melting Point joining the team at the end of the season, which I did, and I did like his character, his powers, and him joining the team. I think that was a cool move. But the rest of the storyline didn't really affect the season, so what was the point? Unless if it's a good storyline, and unless if it's great or amazing, then there was no point. So that's really what I feel about that main storyline. I would say, however, it's not a bad storyline. It's good, but it's not great or amazing, and when you're not great or amazing, then what was the point? But it was good, so I'll give it that. Iris getting Barry's powers, it was semi-enjoyable. It was fun to watch. It wasn't bad or anything, and the way they went about it with using Melting Point to give Iris Barry's powers, it was a good way to go about it. I would have liked to see Barry adjust to being human again, like we saw in the episode in Season 2, Back to Normal, which I don't remember if that's a good episode or not. All I remember is that the way they made him human again was ridiculously stupid. But this time around, it actually made sense, so seeing him become human again for at least this episode would have been nice to see. But the only thing we really see is him being jealous of Iris, which wasn't a great way to go about that. I would have liked to see him adjust to be human again like we saw in Season 2. This time it could have been better because of the way that they made him get his powers made a lot more sense. I remember in Season 2, he willingly gave Zoom his speed because Zoom had Wily captured, but I remember thinking, you're faster than him now, because Barry was faster than Zoom at that point, so he could have stopped him, but he didn't because he has morals, I guess, and he made a promise or something like that, but that was ridiculously stupid. So this time around, it would have made more sense, and I would have liked to see him adjust to normal human life. But on the other side of that, Iris adjusting to being a speedster, that was handled pretty well. It felt like kind of they made the first 14 to 15 episodes of The Flash crammed into one episode for Iris. Technically, she has the same speed as Barry, so she should be as fast, but I don't think that's how it worked. I think Barry always had the speed, but never knew how to use it and had to gain the skills. So Iris having the skills right away, knowing how to make a tidal wave. Sure, she doesn't know how to stop a fire, but she knew how to make a tidal wave, which is something Barry has never done, and she knew how to run on water, which took Barry a couple episodes to learn how to do. So the fact that she went this fast and was able to do all those things kind of bothered me, because it took Barry much longer to do it. And again, you could say that she got Barry's speed, but and Barry's way faster than he was in Season 1, but Barry always had this speed, and he had to learn how to use it, and he had to unlock the Speed Force, kind of, and Iris has not done that, so it kind of bothered me how she had all these powers already, and she had all these skills with the Speed Force already, but seeing Iris as a speedster was enjoyable because it was only one episode. If it was more than that, I would have been annoyed, definitely, but because it was only one episode, so it didn't really mean anything. It was semi-enjoyable, so I'll give them that. The Iris West part of this storyline, as opposed to the Speedster Iris part of this storyline, was actually done pretty well, because you see her whole journey of being a speedster and all her conversations with Ralph, which, I mean, there were like one too many of those conversations of him storming off and then her running after him, even though they've never really talked to each other before, so it doesn't really make sense for her to do that. And also they dragged on for a little too long, especially the one at the end. But there were actually pretty nice moments, despite the fact that there were too many and they lasted a little bit too long. and they made no sense. There were a lot of dumb things about that. I really don't like it when somebody storms off and somebody runs after that guy, because that doesn't happen in real life. First of all, people storm off, but not that often, and people don't run after him or her that quickly. It's just not realistic. So I don't, and that happened like two or three times in this episode. So I don't like that aspect of it. But despite that, Iris and Ralph connecting in this episode was nice to see, and also their storylines of Ralph being afraid of being killed by DeVoe, and Iris facing the fact that she's not as fearless as she used to be. Those were actually done pretty well. Also, Iris doubting that she's not as fearless as she used to be, connecting to her being a speedster, also worked really well. Another thing is that they finally explained why she's not a reporter anymore. Maybe I missed it earlier this season or in season 3, but I know she hasn't really been a reporter since I think season 1 or 2. I don't really remember, but they finally explained why, and it's because she quit. I mean, that's not really the greatest reason why, but at least they explained it. So, something I gushed about in my previous episode review my only episode review for Enter Flash Time, I gushed about the effects of the episode, and this episode also, even though it wasn't as good looking as the previous one, it looked pretty good as well. Iris's purple lightning while she runs looked pretty great, despite the fact that they never explained why she has purple lightning. I explained this in my trailer breakdown, but purple lightning means, except for white lightning, you're the fastest speedster, faster than yellow, than red, than even green and blue, even though we've never seen green before at this point. But purple is the fastest, at least in the normal speed force, not in the negative speed force. And again, aside from white, because white's not on the spectrum, and Savitar had white, so I thought that meant something, but it doesn't look like it does. She has purple speed, and that's never explained. It doesn't mean anything. It's just purple because I guess she's a female and it fits her character and her suit. But then again, Jessie has yellow speed as well, so I don't really know. It doesn't make any sense, but it did look good, and the fire effects looked really great, and the tidal wave looked good. The special effects in this episode were really, really great, despite the fact that they never explained why Iris's lightning is purple. It still looked really great, and everything looked really great. Not as good as last week again, not as good as last week, but still pretty great. This episode introduced us to a new bus meta in Melting Point, and like I said earlier in this review, his powers are really interesting, and I'm going to expand on that here. I like how he joined the team, and they're going to use him to try to take DeVoe's powers away and maybe transfer it to somebody else, to Harry maybe, I think, because they are setting that up with the thinking cap, which I will talk about in a minute. But I do like his powers, and I do like the fact that he joined the team, because like that came out of nowhere. I don't think we've ever had a member, somebody join the Team Flash without us expecting it, and that was like really the only unexpected thing from this episode, is that he actually didn't die or get incarcerated. He actually joined the team. That's never been done before with a villain of the week. Technically, he's not a villain of the week, and the other guy was the guy with the fire powers, or both guys with fire powers. And first of all, I actually thought that guy with the spiky jacket was gonna be the main villain of the week, because he was the one in the promotional photos. But it turns out he wasn't. I mean, he was kind of, but so was Melting Point. And I mean, I guess he was the villain of the week, but I expected him to be Melting Pot, actually, not Melting Point, because the synopsis said Melting Pot, but it turns out his name is actually Melting Point, which is either a typo or the people who wrote the synopsis are just really dumb. Either way, I do like this character, at least from what we've seen of him. I am excited. I am looking forward, not excited, but I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I do not expect him and this plan of Team Flashes to work against DeVoe, because there are 7 more episodes to the season and nothing has worked so far. So they're probably not going to find the solution until the episode before the finale or the finale itself, like most seasons. But either way, this character was a pretty cool character, and I'm looking forward to see more of him in the rest of the season. Last thing to touch on for this review is Harry building this thinking cap, or as he calls it, this intelligence booster similar to DeVoe's, or actually not similar, but exactly like DeVoe's, because it was modeled after that one to get the same powers. And I don't really have an opinion on this storyline yet. I'd like to see how it turns out, but nothing really to add to this, because I don't have much of an opinion. I don't dislike it, and I don't love it or anything. I'm just looking for, I'm indifferent. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm indifferent on this storyline. And I think it was a slightly lazy way for them to just say the last 2 bus metas, because, I mean, they could have just discovered the last 2 bus metas next episode instead of doing that. But it doesn't really bother me that much because they're just villains of the week, so that doesn't really matter. So again, I'm indifferent on this storyline. If you've made it this far into the video, make sure to follow my Twitter, because YouTube has been pretty crappy lately as to updating people on their subscriptions and also their videos. Like you have to wait like an hour and a half for a video to even show up on your own YouTube page. I reloaded the page multiple times and my video just doesn't show up, so I have to like go to my video manager to find it. It is pretty stupid. So if you want to get my videos like right away when I upload them, the best way to do that is to follow me on Twitter. The link is in the description. It's at the Blackest Lion because the Black Lion was taken. But make sure to follow me on Twitter if you want to get updated regularly to my videos and not to get updated late. In conclusion, this episode went about precisely how I expected it to go. Iris gets Barry's powers and then loses it by the end of the episode for it to not at all affect the season as a whole. That's what I expected, and I gotta say, I wasn't disappointed. I actually kind of passed my expectations just because it had some pretty great moments to it, and it had some interesting things to it. So it did kind of surpass my expectations, but my expectations were pretty mediocre for the episode, so that's not saying much. It does not bother me that Iris got powers because it was for 1 episode, so that does not affect the score of the episode at all. But this was a pretty okay episode. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad or anything, it was okay. So I'll give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. But anyway, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.